Hello, good afternoon, flyleafs and bookworms out there. Welcome to this Friday's episode of Author Reads here on Fae Productions. I am your host, Fairy Princess Lolly. I'm so happy to see you guys this Friday, ushering in the weekend with me. So always, first things first, like, subscribe, and today we're going to stalk the bell. I want to stalk the bell. So yes, because we have a horror author writer today, so I felt like stalk was a good thing to do. So we do something new to our bell every show. I got bored with saying ring the bell, so I decided I was going to do new things to the bell every show. So yes, and then also, hey, how's it going, Jay? I see you out there. Woohoo! Thank you for tuning in. And so also today, I just want to give a shout out to our show sponsor, which is the Witches Circle. And the Witches Circle shop is located in Ontario, Canada, helping you find all of your magical needs. They do everything from witchcraft kits, crystals, candles, custom orders, and they even do events at their shop like tarot card readings, workshops for crystals. Every product that they have is vegan, cruelty-free, and they come from a small family-run business. So please check them out if you will. They're on Instagram at The Witches Circle Shop, all one word, for their store updates, weekly tarot card polls, and other tips and tricks for the craft. Their information is in the low bar. As always, you can go and check them out online. So please do that. And remember, of course, our sponsors, support our sponsors because they support us. So with that said, then I introduce to you all our author today, Ashley Grant. Hello, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on the show. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
and thank you
ahead.
Also for keeping with the horror theme that I see you've collected.
Yes, horror is technically my favorite genre, so I like to keep everybody guessing, right? Good fairy, bad fairy, who knows, right? So I look so bright and shiny, but and then stab the bell, stab it, right? Hello, John Tesler. I don't think I've ever seen you out there before, but welcome to our show. If you will, please introduce yourself. Well, I mean, obviously Ashley Grant, but please tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from, a little bit about your writing. Let's hear about you some.
My writing is definitely more darkly inclined, as people can obviously guess. I am a new and hopefully upcoming horror author. So far, I have 3 books that are just solo books of mine. I also am featured in a poetry collection by all under the same publisher, Dark Gatekeeper Gaming. It's called An Exaltation of Shadows, Volume 2. And there is one book that will trip everyone up. It is a children's book. It has nothing to do with horror, and it's written under a pen name.
Keeping it just like myself, keeping it changed up. Everybody's on their toes. I'm curious though, what is, since there's just the one children's book, what is that about?
I knew someone was going to ask that, and because John Tesler, my fiance, is online and was going to ask about that, I made sure to bring a copy. This is the kids' book.
Mm-hmm. Oh, look at it! It's so cute.
So the poem, the illustrations, everything, all me. And there is a second one already in the works.
That is excellent. Under the pen name of, I missed that one.
Oh, Marie Cunahan.
Marie Cunahan. Gotcha.
Yes, so Cunahan is a family name on my father's side of the family. So
good for a pen name then. Well, so let's hear a little bit about your type of horror writing, because I know there's all different types. Hello, Wesley. I see you out there joining us from Facebook. Please tell us a little bit, though, about the type of horror that you write. Just like there's different horror movies, right, where you have kind of your psychological thrillers, and then you have your hack and slash, and so what kind of ghost story horrors, or what kind of horror do you, or does it vary?
It varies. It varies a lot. That's a hard question for me to ask for you to ask because Edgar Allan Poe is probably one of my biggest influences. Wesley, since I just saw your comment, you can buy Kitty Bat on drivethroughfiction.com. That is where all of my books currently are.
Yes, let me get that actually up there. You can find a link for that also in the low bar of Facebook as well. There should be a link that you can just click and go to, but there is the information for you there. So going in the ticker. Yeah. Thank you.
But yes, my horror style definitely varies. One of the books I'm going to read today, When the Ferris Wheel Lights Are Dead, is a slightly more traditional ghost story, whereas Lament of Midnight is a little bit of everything. It has 2 horror short stories, and then the center is filled with poems. So it has a bunch of different horror poems, stuff like that. And you particularly would like it because a lot of it is Celtic and fairy inclined.
What?
In fact, a couple of my poems even feature banshees and Dullahans, if you know what those are.
I do know what a Dullahan is.
Yep.
Dullahan. I know exactly what that is. It's basically the headless horseman if you were over here of Sleepy Hollow. So maybe with a little more things. You know, carries a human spine as his whip, and he cracks it to snap your eye out if he catches you spying on him. Totally no.
Yep. So you would definitely like Lament of Midnight.
That right sounds actually awesome. all the dark fae. You know, so I guess that I'm curious how the carnival theme sort of plays into it, because I've always thought that it would be so cool to buy some old rundown creepy carnival and then convert it into an event property, not to have carnivals at, but those things would be like the decoration, right? The property decoration, and it would be awesome and cool. So I'm like, hey, how does creepy carnival play into this?
Well, When the Ferris Wheel Lights Are Dead, as of right now, is a standalone from Lament of Midnight, but it does tie into Lament of Midnight too. It has a companion short story in it if you read When the Ferris Wheel Lights Are Dead. It alone, it doesn't actually have a lot to do with the Fae, but there is definitely a little bit of Celtic lore and mythology as far as spells and ghost stories, vengeance, things like that. I also grew up right next to an amusement park, so that's where the Ferris wheel influence came from.
It has nothing to do with books, but isn't it incredibly noisy to live next door to an amusement park? I mean, isn't there just like stuff going?
I was far away enough that we didn't actually hear it, but the amusement park that I was raised near was only open during the summer. So the biggest issue, honestly, was the huge traffic jam because my town was very small. So we would get all of the tourists, and it was like the biggest issue every year was there's no parking during the summer. There's nowhere we can go because all of those the visitors.
Where are you from?
Cape May, New Jersey is where I spent the bulk of my childhood. I'm a military child, so I grew up in multiple states. I spent a year in Mississippi, spent 2 years in Connecticut, 10 years in New Jersey.
That is where actually Ion the Leprechaun is from New Jersey. So way back east, and now he's all the way on the opposite coast with me. Yay. Well, so what got you into writing horror? Why did you pick this genre?
I didn't really pick it so much as it was a calling, as weird as that is to say. I was always writing horror. When I was 10 years old, the town librarian gave me a copy of Pet Sematary because I was growing too old for Goosebumps.
That's one of the good ones.
So that's still been my favorite. I became a diehard Stephen King fan, but I'm also a product of the 90s. I mean, I grew up with Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps, Tales from the Dark Side, all of those shows and all of those books. So I just went from one to another. And when I started writing, that was it.
And then you started writing. I think that even actually Stephen King said because I too, was introduced to Stephen King quite young, and with not Pet Sematary, which was maybe my third or fourth, but with The Shining, I think it was the first one that I read. Nice. And yeah, which great. But I think I recall seeing him say in one of his books at the beginning that if you want to be a writer, then you need to just write. Just sit down and start doing it. And, if you build it, they will come, kind of a thing, right?
Yep.
Oh, here, were you next to Maurice? That is the question.
Yes, I was. I was next to Maurice Spear.
There you go. Newt recognizes where you are from. So, well, so tell us a little bit today. Which one are we going to hear from? Oh, you said both of them actually.
Yes,
in the
if we have time, I would definitely like to do both. I will try to find the Fae-inspired poems for you with Lament of Midnight. Try, but they're in the middle of the book.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask, one other thing. What is it about the horror genre that you think calls to you? Do you think it's maybe do you think it's like a alternate way of perceiving the world? Do you think it's the allure that not everything is happily ever after? Do you what is it?
I don't know. It definitely helps me express myself. It helps me get rid of all of those dark and depressing thoughts that can sometimes take over. Especially, I know that people joke about it, but yes, a lot of horror authors do kill off people they hate, people that they're angry at. If someone is mad at me or someone from my childhood who bullied me, I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to write a short story about them.
It's like the awesome version of voodoo dolls, right?
Yep.
I'm going to create a character and then I'm going to stab it. All right, well, let's see the books that you're going to do today, and then let's hear a little bit about, I guess just let's do them one at a time, maybe. Since you're reading from two, show us the first book, tell us a little bit about it, and then I can turn the screen over to you, and then when you are done with that one, if you'll say something, I'll come back, and you can swap over to the second book. Does that sound amenable?
No problem, that sounds great.
Okay, and then I just want to say for everybody out there also watching at home, while Ashley is reading, if you have questions or comments or things that you would like to throw out there, please just put them in to the comment section. And when she's done with both of the readings, then we will go ahead and take the questions at the end before we do the drawing for our giveaway. So I think with all of that said, then let us hear about this first book, and then I'll turn the screen over to you.
Okay. Well, the first book I'm going to read from is my newest one, which is, newest novella, When the Ferris Wheel Lights Are Dead. This is the one that I said was inspired partially by my hometown. And it's the story of a girl who was left in an abandoned amusement park and is found by modern society after living on her own for many, many years. When she's finally an adult, she gets integrated back into the modern world. It's a really good story. It definitely has darker elements, and there's even a surprise character that I was not planning. When I wrote this book, this character showed up anyway, because that's what they like to do.
As somebody made you angry,
as any writer will tell you. But it's a really good story. It's a little bit of your stereotypical ghost story with a twist. All
right. Well, I'm going to give you the whole screen here to yourself and put myself on mute, and off you go.
Alrighty. And just for everyone at home, just to let you know, this is my proof copy. So the introduction to this book, When the Ferris Wheel Lights Are Dead, is going to be different if you buy the book at drivethroughfiction.com. All right. Chapter 1. On Her Own, Ages Ago. Joy spread throughout every inch of the carnival's lone master. The clang of the ball hitting the glass bottle vibrated throughout the carnival. She didn't worry about the sound disturbing or irritating anyone. She was the only one here. She knew that she'd have to set up the bottles one more time if she wanted to play again. The rain had stopped, and the ground had dried enough for her to walk without slipping in the mud. It was a considerable annoyance when that happened. The Ferris wheel stood high in the background, its rusting iron shining in contrast to the trees surrounding the area. She feared it would topple over the tents and stands years ago. It didn't, Still standing, it seemed to have a will against God. In a way, the slowly aging woman felt the giant wheel protected her from the park's burned section. There were no surviving lights anymore. She'd start a fire at dusk, then sleep when it extinguished. The glow was the only real warmth she'd known since she'd been left by herself. Some days she forgot almost everything, forgetting to fish, forgetting her family, how to stay alive. Not today. The sun shone and the ground was firm, so she played at one of the surviving game stands. There weren't many that hadn't collapsed. Ring toss, ball throw, and the basketball hoops had lasted with her. Sweat dripped off her in the excursion. It saddened her that the ringmaster would never see how skilled she became at his favorite game. He was past the forest line now, just like all the others. She knew she should tend to them, but she'd stopped going there a while ago. Last summer had been too harsh. She needed to take the time to set up as best she could now that the temperature had eased a bit. But she needed to breathe, could feel the emptiness in her soul. Today, she would waste the hours. Trying to recall her younger days when she was not the carnival's only caretaker. Like the rest of her home, this childhood was long gone and unusable. Kember, that's what she used to be known by. The word sounded strange to her now. Another girl from a distant dream. Quickly, she set up the bottles for one more turn. Then she would check her fish net in the creek. Her body commanded the change. She hated every change that came to her isolated world. She knew, unlike the woods around her, she stood still. She'd promised that she would take care of her home, and that's what she'd done. Ringmaster would be proud of her, keeping everything untouched by that night alive. Some stands had rusted out, and she could no longer use her camper. But that was all right. Some days she wished for a friend. This was a foolish idea that vanished whenever she gathered supplies in the town. Slowly the woman walked to the creek, thinking about her family, almost in tears. The net was full, she noticed. She'd have to throw some of the fish back. She didn't have salt to preserve anything. Pulling it out of the water, she watched the struggling aquatic life forms with little emotion. Scanning for the largest two, the others were released. A fire set right by the creek, with twigs and loose underbrush, and her meal was cooking. Food was not a means of pleasure, just a means of staying another day. Absent-mindedly, the dust was brushed from her shirt. She would need to wash it soon. It didn't concern her. She looked bizarre to herself when she was clean. This was a quiet, undisturbed life, the exact opposite of earlier days. Bright colors, moving rides, and everyone was laughing near her. Vague smoke signals drifting to the wind, fueled by the fire in front of her slim frame. The sun was fading, allowing the shadows to slowly consume the area. She trudged back to the carnival, smiling at the large picture of Ringmaster beckoning her home. The light shone vibrantly orange, as it did every day there was sunlight. Every canvas portrait had been used for bedding by now, except his. Something about his eternally happy face, residing over everything as it died, kept her from using his fabric. Please let the night winds be mild, Kember pleaded with the forest. It seemed her luck was gone. The night was harsh. She curled herself up on top of the wood of the ball stand. The metal curtain gave her a small means of protection, but it didn't stop the autumn gale's sound. Slow nights made for restless minds. Loud, torturous nights like this made her miss her family the most. The hours passed on. Her eyes opened with fervor. The birds were singing loudly. A crack of light spread over her legs. The storm had passed. Now the hard part began. What damage did she have to deal with? She wasn't dead, so the wheel was still up. She used the cord inside the stand to open the metal cover. Frowning, she stared ahead. Only one basketball hoop was left. Tree limbs scattered freely across the property. It would take hours to straighten her home. This irritated the woman, but otherwise was of little concern. She jumped from her dismal post and looked east. Her metal guardian still in the air, yet pushed back by 20 degrees. She could see the large center bolts were strained. It pushed outward to the forest line. Perhaps the Ferris wheel wished to join to the others in the cold ground. Kimber knew in the deepest part of her broken spirit the day the wheel collapsed would be the day she left the carnival as well. All right. that's where I'm going to stop, because that is the end of chapter 1 of When the Ferris Wheel Lights Are Dead. So I hope you all enjoyed that one.
Okay. I'm bringing myself back in here for a second. Aha, there we are. You know, I totally had the wrong thing up. That wasn't Lament of Midnight. I had them swapped around. That's what you're reading now. Oh!
It's okay. No, I wanted to save that one for last for you, particularly so I could find the poems I was talking about. Like I said,
Is that what you're moving on to now?
Yes.
Yes. All right, perfect. Well, now it is correct. I will take myself off again and give you the camera.
Okay, give me one. There we go. I found one that I know you will like.
Okay, and if you could just give us a little bit of context about what it is we are about to hear, and then launch forth.
All right, so this is Lament of Midnight, also on DriveThruFiction.com, just like the rest of my books. This is technically an anthology. It has 2 horror short stories, and the center is filled with poems. I'm going to try to read one of the short stories. I don't think I'm going to have time to. I apologize in advance if I don't. But because I promised Princess Lolly, I will read from some of the Celtic-inspired poems in Lament of Midnight. I hope you all enjoy. It's definitely a darker reading, not to everyone's taste.
If I can say real quick, it is 2:30, and so you do have a bit of time to do some reading. So if you think that if you get to the point that you want to ask for a time check, please do, and I'll let you know. We don't turn into a pumpkin at 3 o'clock. I mean, I don't know about you, but.
Right. No. Well, and it's 5 p.m. here. You said, as I said, I'm on the East Coast, so.
Still pretty early, though, right? For a Friday. Yes. Okay, I'll let you go.
All right, so I'm going to start off with Dullahan. This is in the middle of the book, just so everyone knows. It is a poem. This one's actually pretty short. All right. Dullahan. Hooves crashed onto the ground, relishing the devilish sound with a crack and a moan. The weapon the rider held scraped the air, the cord forever held, white and bare. The rider made no use of reins, his eerie companion held no restraint. As they raced through the night, black cloak asunder, a skull clenched unyielding. Rider and beast drew closer to their plunder. Heads of old conquests lighting the way. Don't let them draw close. Don't let the rider speak clear. In your pocket you hold silver, my dear. Right. And the next one I'm going to read, because I'm going to pick these poems at random, is called Beneath the City Streets. This one, Brownie points to the person who can figure out the movie that this poem was inspired by. Beneath the city streets, 2 corpses eternally meet, days cut short by the man's vengeance and rage. Skeletons now, they lay on top of the cobblestone decay, as the blood which coursed through their veins poured into the sewers one night. They were inconsequential, the man's conquests were monumental, straining the sewers with his victims' nameless lives. The fire went out in the oven, the witch he knew started this coven, with whom her ploy he enjoyed. Nothing but meat for the grinder, it did them well, with him behind her, till the one he left aeons ago fell atop his floor. Blinded, he ignored her body, overtaken with madness and rage, as blood poured, never-ending, beneath the city streets. The sewer betrayed the treasonous duo. Smell could not keep out others forever. Alas, this worthwhile endeavor broke as forcefully as the nameless victim's bones. Withered old woman, light gives true meaning to your ruin, as the man held your worm corpse to his own, separated by longing of one who had no belonging. Both beings perished aeons ago. Washing into the harbor, the sewers faithfully carried the barter beneath the city streets. Yes, Wesley Gallup, since I just saw your comment, it is in reference to Sweeney Todd. And yes, you are correct.
Had me beat. I was guessing something vampire-y over here, but Sweeney, I should have known. Now that it's been said, I'm like, oh, duh. Attend the sale of Sweeney Todd.
You find another good one.
I love Sweeney Todd. I had a friend one year for Halloween, got tickets to Sweeney Todd at the Fifth Avenue, and then for a gift, gave me a very, very sharp, shiny new straight razor.
Love it.
It was
Love
awesome.
Okay. Jesse, I know you're watching, so I'm going to do your 2 favorite poems of mine. These ones are much shorter. Just throwing it out there for everyone. They're also not as dark, so I'm going to lighten up a little bit for everybody. All right. Sleepless. The cogs in my head spin away endless hours until my bearings are lost to this relentless, binding power. And then the second poem, which is a companion to the first one, is called Rest. Ease and peace of mind, I find myself looking farther and farther to find. Make my body boneless, put my heart to rest. For just one night, I wish to enjoy the softness of my bed. Okay, this is also another lighter poem, since it was on the next page. So, easing back a little bit, don't want to freak anybody out much. The Minstrel. She wandered through many streets. Her strings played in earnest. Dancing children followed as she roamed the towns for coin. Twirling behind, the villagers loved her tin whistle, the lords and ladies her lute, as she played and sang the cares away from many a weary eye. The world quickly changed without her, the cobble roads grew cold, yet she could still find welcome among all the towns she strode. She had forgotten the last time she had seen one of her own, yet she was greeted by the castle with the same fervor as poor. The prince had been the one to spot her, laying in the field. He knew what she had been, and so erected her place with zeal. The city shall always see her now. She had been the last, now a precious symbol of a time long since past.
Alrighty. Can I ask you a question real quick before you do the next one?
Sure.
The inside of the book looks like it's got cool artwork on it. Can you show us what that looks like?
Sure. There's actually a border on the poetry section. The short stories do not have this, but it does have a rose border on it.
It looks so cool. I like that it has that little fancy touch to it. Sorry, go ahead.
That was actually my edition. I specifically asked my publisher for that, partially because I wanted to separate the poetry from the short stories. I didn't want everything to blend together. I also really liked the idea of making the book look more antique.
Yeah, I really like it. So,
okay. Here's a good one, just to get back to the dark theme that we have going on. Devil, scream at me your sins, beat me down with your failures. You stand there, prim and proper, painting horns on my head. I am your devil, your disaster. Lie to yourself. I know it won't hurt. I'm your enemy, your nightmare. Proof your shallow ambitions have collapsed. You made me this way. There's no turning back. Beat me, curse me. I'll take it all in stride. I'm not the one with a reason to hide. And I think I will draw this reading conclusion with probably the longest poem in Lament of Midnight. I'm going to save the short stories for you viewers for your own.
All right. Are you calling it to an end, or are you reading more?
I'm reading one more poem. The reason I'm letting you guys know in advance is it's a very long poem. It's like 6 to 8 pages, but it's a
Okay.
very good story. Very Edgar Allan Poe inspired, and I do believe everyone will enjoy this.
All right, here we go.
All right, this one is called Iron Door. Minute glances of a benign structure gave nothing away to the horrors inside the broad iron doors. Laid tortures I cannot utter as the wind fell asunder, pressing me on to the porch. This was meant as quick shelter. I faltered, icy breath clenched my soul. Somewhere inside, beyond the iron door, my hand stilled on the knocker. Dare I to take up this offer? Choice was not mine this twilight, as iron swung hard with a clatter, wishing all my bones to shatter. Otherworldly powers, laughter, dragging me through the door. I know not how long I stayed, motionless my temple bade, only that I woke amazed, bleeding on the marble floor. The sun had long forsaken me, while my thoughts were surely taking me swiftly to places I beg to thee I've never been before. Shudders clashed with the wind and hail. This night so sinful drew my face pale, mind dizzying from this ill-advised mission that had been brought before. The door, no option to me, I forced my feet to still me against the dark staircase where I found purchase with this new shore. Again nothing appeared to me, no way, no matter in which I could escape. Escape easy. Please, angels above, heed to me. I bellowed while I proceeded from the floor. Laughter rose abundant, my life, my soul, amongst them. These shadows whose eyes followed my every step from the floor. Be swift, do not dwell. Let them laugh, but do not escape their cell. My heart determined to abandon soon this wretched house of lore. The stairs, much steeper, allowed their eyes to creep near. My imagination growing deeper, the further I marched from the door. To the top of the staircase my legs sought to plunder, only from the massive height, which I see my escape, unencumbered. If I had known how wrong I'd been, my soul would swiftly be turned back towards the door. There was no refuge from these shadows' eyes that bind me. I found instead their waiting cells to grind me. I screamed at horrors never uttered. My feet shot from each other, down the corridor opposite the door. The images dismayed me. I begged my body to obey me. Alas, such was not meant to be so. Still wounded from my entrance, I failed to sight the hidden dumbwaiter's drawer. I collapsed with agony, the eyes retreating, my life, my soul, now defeating. They enjoyed their feast repeated behind the locked iron door. Alrighty, and that is the end of Iron Door. I will leave the rest of the short stories to you viewers, and you can take it away, Princess Wally. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. Thank you so much. Well, so we do have some questions, and let me go and pull those here so that I can get them asked to you. Ooh, I think I might have scrolled too fast right there. Okay. Do you find that the fear evoked in horror creates a similar feeling as the fear that amusement parks and roller coasters evoke?
I do. Yes, I have found that as I've been writing horror.
You get that gut-wrenching. Okay, let's see. I wondered, having kind of related, but not like to the writing exactly, but more to the process. Is it possible to get physical? I've never bought a book on DriveThruRPG because I normally like to have the physical books. So is it possible to get physical books off of DriveThruRPG?
It is possible to get physical books off of DriveThruFiction, which is a sister website.
That's what I meant.
DriveThru has a couple of websites. Yes, it is possible to get physical copies. All of my books that are published right now do have physical copies. So yes, it is possible to order physicals.
That is
I don't
pretty
know
much
what their
what I
shipping rate
always
is.
prefer. So no, that's okay. Let's see. Let's do this one. What part of the process of writing a book do you find the most difficult, and how did you overcome that difficulty?
Honestly, the most difficult process, because for me, I'm what's known as a pantser. I don't outline, I don't pre-plot, I just sit there and I write. The most
By the
difficult
seat of your
part for
pants.
me, yes, the difficult part for me is when I've kind of exhausted my idea, and basically I get writer's block. That's the most difficult part for me, is even if I'm halfway through a book, I know what I want to do with it, I know where it's going, I just sit there. I could have half a page done, I could have 2 chapters done, and I won't be able to write anymore. The easiest thing, I know this is going to sound weird, but the easiest thing to do in that situation is to just, for me, to back away. Go watch a movie, go draw. I find that very odd about my inspiration. I can draw fan art all day long, but when it comes to writing, when my brain says stop, it just stops.
So you draw as well. Have you illustrated your books, or do you draw?
Yes, Kitty Bat is entirely illustrated by me, and the cover of Lament of Midnight was done by me, and please forgive me, I always forget the name of the woman who helped me with Lament of Midnight's cover. But the illustration, the straitjacket, was actually mine.
Cool. So you're multi-talented. Did you study to be a writer, or do you have, is this your moonlighting gig?
It is technically my moonlighting gig. I can say yes and no on studying to be a writer, because
Okay.
although I did not take any college classes majoring in literature or English, other than basic requirements, I did take a lot of college level workshops and specialty classes when I was in high school and middle school. So, yes, I have.
Like, you didn't specifically do that, but you have had some training, workshop. Those things count. I don't know why they wouldn't. So, do you uh, do you ever often give panels, participate in panels, or benefit from panels like at conventions? Do you think that, do you ever do anything like that?
I was supposed to be at a convention last year. Unfortunately, then COVID killed the convention. So, no, I have not been at a convention or a panel yet.
Not yet.
It was a little bit saddening to me and my publisher, because I was the closest one to him. I also, as of right now, have the most books under him. So he really wanted me there at the convention, and then the convention was canceled last minute.
And just as a quick reminder, what was the name of that publisher? Because I know you said at the beginning, but I don't recall.
It's Dark Gatekeeper Gaming.
Dark
Gatekeeper Gaming. You can either search for him in drivethroughfiction.com, or you can just search my name. And
is it .com?
Yep.
All right, I'm just putting that into the comment section for anybody that might be interested in looking that up. Because shout out to your publisher, right?
Yes, definitely shout out to him, because I could not afford to do this on my own.
So what do you think one of the most, so you have poetry, and then you have short stories and a novella. Do you have plans to write anything that is beyond the length of a novella, or what are your plans like going forward, looking in the future?
I do have a book that I just started, which is called Sawdust Road.
Oh, that sounds cool.
I have no idea what the length of that's going to be. Like I said, I don't pre-plan anything, and I did just finish another novella, and this novella is actually about twice the length of Ferris Wheel. So I'm definitely doing what a lot of authors do, where I start small and then gradually gain experience, add more length to my books, and all that.
What do you think some of the biggest barriers in the publishing industry are?
Definitely connections. I don't have a lot of experience with traditional publishers. My publisher pretty much found me. I mean, we were on a very obscure website that was somewhat known in the goth community. It doesn't exist anymore. It was called Vampire Freaks. He was asking for poets. I took a shot in the dark, sent him some poetry. Next thing I know, I'm published 4 times. Yeah. But from my understanding from the traditional publishing world, it's definitely not so much what your writing skill is as opposed to who you know. That's my understanding of it.
Do you have suggestions on what somebody might do if they're at the point in their writing that before they have those connections? Like what are things that you do to help grow your connections or to get that visibility when it's, you're kind of scrambling for every little piece, that's out there, right? Because it just can be so hard, and algorithms typically don't favor.
Definitely the biggest thing would be 1, keep plugging away. 2, find as many publishing companies, whether they're indie or traditional, and keep sending your stuff in. Now, I've heard this from a couple of agents on Twitter. These are not my words. But if an agent says no, not because they don't like your story, but because your story needs editing or it needs work, listen to the agent. The best thing you can do is not get emotional in that situation, especially if the agent is sending you an email that says, hey, this is great, can you tweak it a little bit? Or if you work on it for another month or 2 and then send it back, we might have room for it.
Right.
So the biggest thing would be just keep trying.
Just keep doing. Don't give up. Don't give up your dream.
Like I said, that's not my experience. I will openly admit to everybody, my experience is the 1 in a million of I sent one person one thing and got published immediately. I know most people don't go through that, and
yeah, there's all kinds of horror stories about it too. So here's a question. Do you have a character that you feel particularly connected to in your stories?
Yes, I do, actually. In Lament of Midnight, the first short story, I have a character named Dolly. And Dolly's story is not that far from my own childhood. In fact, it was basically my way of dealing with what I went through as a kid. Of course, with a couple of exaggerations to make it a good short story.
Right.
So, to everyone reading it, no, yes, there are some things that I went through that Dolly goes through, but no, it is not my childhood entirely.
Fair enough. Here we have, what is the shirt graphic that you're wearing?
This is actually Alistair from Has Been Hotel. If you haven't seen it on YouTube, I highly recommend it. It is hilarious.
I have not seen it. What is it about?
Oh, it is a great cartoon. It's by a creator named Vipsy Pop. She is wonderful. It's definitely an adult cartoon. Fair warning, no minors to this. Basic premise is everybody is in hell and everyone sucks. And it's so funny.
Oh, so it's set in a modern day setting here on Earth.
Yes,
it's set in
2020. It's about the daughter of the devil himself trying to redeem unredeemed damned souls in hell. It's hilarious. Right now, there's only 1 episode. I do know it has been serialized by A24. I don't have any other information than that, but I do know it was really big news among those of us who are Has Been Hotel fans when it was serialized. So hopefully it will be on TV soon.
Well, before we get to the interesting, I see nothing here. I don't know what this is. I see nothing. So before I get to kind of our last bit of chatty and questions, I want to say to everybody out there, so the book that you're giving away today is
Lament of Midnight, yes.
Lament of Midnight. Okay.
Yep,
this one. Okay. So Lament of Midnight is the giveaway. And if you guys want to be on the Wheel of Win, which I'm going to spin here in a little bit, now is the time to put your name into the comments so that I can get you onto the wheel. Just put that name right there. I will add you onto the wheel, and we're going to spin here in a little bit. I just wanted to I'm finding my thing. There we go. Yay! I want to find my little yes, find my little. Oh, hey, look at that! You have a fan out there. Awesome book.
Yes,
I read it.
Jesse's been a fan of mine for a while.
Yeah, no, she has also been on the show as well. So a great collection of steampunky work out there from her. So hi, Jessica. How are you? Nice to see you out there in the audience. Well, so I guess that going back, I'm curious, what might we have to look forward to in the future with you and your writing?
Well, there's already a Kitty Bat 2 in the works. I don't know when it's going to be published. There's no date yet. Nothing of that sort as of right now. There's also, trigger warning for everyone who might need that. I just finished a book that I'm about to start its final stages of editing. It's called No Longer Lolita, which addresses the issues of sex trafficking.
Oh, wow.
And it's
a heavy issue.
Yeah. It took me a year to write that book. It's about 30,000 words in its last edit. The story itself is fictional, but I did a lot of research on it.
I was just going to ask about the research into something like.
Okay, you seem to have frozen up on me.
Uh-oh. Did we have a freeze up?
A little bit, yes.
A little bit? Yes.
Okay.
Well, I did. What did you say last? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
I was just saying that you froze on your side.
Yeah, no, I was just asking what the research was like on that, because it seems like it must have been quite a dark rabbit hole to go down.
It was definitely a dark rabbit hole, and I had to kind of quit some of the research because basically I went down enough to do the book itself, and then I stopped researching because I couldn't torture myself anymore with the info.
Good. So Jessica requests that you tell us about new Kitty Bat.
Well, Jessie has already seen the images for the new Kitty Bat, which are painted instead of markers, so she knows all about the new Kitty Bat. But it is called Kitty Bat's New Home. The title is very self-explanatory. Basically, Kitty Bat ends up with a new family, new characters are added. So the first book is an intro of who Kitty Bat is, what he does. The second book is just a continuation on that story. Poor little Kitty Bat gets found out in the street in the rain and finds a new happy family with a big sister who sleeps with him at night in bed.
What inspired Kitty Bat? That I'm curious.
Sleep deprivation. I wrote the poem when I was very sleep deprived and I was still taking public transit, so I wrote it on my phone. Next thing I know, everybody who's read the book likes it, and my publisher, Thomas, has a 3-year-old who is now Kitty Bat's biggest fan. I never even expected Kitty Bat to really be a thing.
Now I want to have there be. So I have a friend who, when his daughter was really young, they had kind of the same thing, like where the kid just latched onto this idea. Mm-hmm. It's really fun to say Kitty Bat, by the way. But he used to tell her stories about the Hockensplacken, which was just the thing that he made up. And I was like, that would be hilarious. Like, what is that thing? And just like to come up with some crazy illustration and then just start writing stories about the Hockensplacken. So that's kind of, I'm like, I could just see some little kid just being like, Kitty Bat, yeah!
Well, Kitty Bat is very short if everybody wants to spare the 2 minutes it'll take for me to read the thing and show the pictures. do we have any interest in Kitty Bat, I guess should be the question before we start on that. That is your call, Princess Lolly.
Well, we are at 2:56, and so I think I'm going to go ahead and just do the spin for the Wheel of Win, and we'll go from there. Let me pull this banner down, and let me get our wheel up. I think I got everybody's name on it that I saw out there. So last chance for you guys to get your name in the comments, and then I will put you on the wheel, which I am getting to right this second, this very instant, immediately, without hesitation. There it is. Yay. Okay. You can see that. So this is these are all of our names, and yes, I got you, Jay, I got you, Newt, and then I see comments from Jessica and Wesley, but not their names. So we will go ahead then and submit you on list. Hit the button and spin, spin, spin. And hey, Christina, you are the winner. Congratulations.
Congrats, Christina.
Yes, she's one of our newer trooping fairies on Patreon, on our Patreon channel. So that's pretty cool. She'll like that, I think. And after the show, I will send you her information. Is there anything that you would like to say to everybody before we let you go and get your weekend started?
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show. I'm really happy that so many people have enjoyed the live stream and joined us today. Yeah, especially because I did not expect this big of a crowd.
Well, for everybody out there as well, and also for you, these videos, the live streams, stay up after the show. They stay up on Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter, not Twitter, YouTube. So if folks want to go back and find your information, if you want to share this, you can continue to do that, and it's not going to go down or disappear. So that is a thing. And then,
thank you so much, Newt.
So I want to also say as well, if you do go get something, please give the reviews to the authors. It always helps them out immensely to have those reviews. And I think with that said, that kind of brings us around here to the end of the show. It is Friday. That means that our next episode, our next show will be on Sunday. It's Handmade Home Shopping from 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. So I will see you guys then. Everybody, please go give some likes and follows to Ashley and have a good start to your weekend. I'll see you guys in a couple of days. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.
Hello, friends. This is Gone for Hammerhands. Thank you for checking out Fairy Princess Lolly's channel. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. And if you'd like to support these magical creations, fly over to our Patreon and join the fairy family. Safe travels.